Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Chris Smyth has over 30 years of experience in the transport industry, and now as the CEO of Perennial Freight, he is acutely aware of the challenges and opportunities within the industry. Chris is also the president of the France-Ireland Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber is promoting France as a lucrative trading market for Irish companies, and Chris joins us now to tell us more. Chris, we'll be discussing how Irish businesses can foster trade relations within its European counterparts. But first, having worked in the transport industry for over 30 years, I'd like to hear about your own experience.
Good morning, Karl. Glad to be on the show this morning. I've always been involved in transport. Originally started off down in Rosslare, the old Transcontinental, which turned into P&O Ferrymasters. Everybody would have known the old Transcon down in Killarran. So I spent a good few years working in P&O, in operations and sales, and I became a general manager. And then in 2001, when the Perennial Freight, when Nolan set Perennial Freight up in 98, he asked me to come on board and come in as director and try grow the business. And I went in 2001, and we only had 5 or 6 staff in the business in a small office up on Newtown Road. And now, we're an international transport company with 200 staff, moving 50,000 trailers a year back and forth between Ireland and the UK and continental Europe.
What is the key behind growing it over the years?
I think it's people, Karl. I'll be honest with you. I think, in any business, it's very important that you have good people around you and you work with the people and, you develop and grow the people. Any business is only as good as the people in it, and that's here in the office or in the garages or the drivers we have. It's all about them. We might have a vision and where we want to go, but, you're looking to your staff and your colleagues to make it happen.
Now, of course, the transport sector is notoriously competitive. How price sensitive is it out there?
Here in Ireland, it's very price sensitive. Not as price sensitive in Europe, where they're probably, in France, for instance, where they're probably more about the relationship and the clients and suppliers work together, and it's very, they don't tend to switch. But here in Ireland, it's very price sensitive. And again, like we would have, our biggest costs would be fuel and ferries run on fuel as well. So any kind of spike in fuel prices affects us. We have to try to pass it on, and that's difficult. It was okay, certainly through COVID and Brexit and Ukraine, because people were quite happy to pay whatever they need to do to get their loads and their goods moved back and forth. But, certainly last year that kind of plateaued a little bit, and there was a bit of a kind of reset. If you have a good product, people will pay for that extra, that bit of better service or better quality service. And, we run, a very modern fleet, and we're very big in sustainability. Our trucks are modern trucks, with very fuel efficient, and we do a lot of work here on sustainability. So people will pay a little bit extra for that, and they get that as well. So you have to try to set yourself apart.
How important is it to be sustainable in that business today? How is it viewed from your client's perspective?
Very much so. It's more and more, Karl. I suppose the last 4 or 5 years, people have kind of paid lip service to it. But now there's, a lot of companies now are, when we go for tenders, they're scoring us on our sustainability. They're looking at us going, what are you doing about sustainability in your company? And we have to demonstrate that, our trucks are modern fleet, Euro 6 trucks on AdBlue. They have all that telematics in them about driver behaviour, cruise control, all that kind of stuff. How smart is the truck? It is becoming more and more important. And some of the bigger companies themselves, from their headquarters, especially the big blue chip companies, they're being told to work with companies in transport who are sustainable and who are doing things properly, and they want to see us doing that. And we have to produce the goods. We have to step forward and say, yes, we are able to get your goods from A to B, with less carbon footprint. And
what are the current challenges facing the transport sector right now?
I think the biggest problem, Karl, at the moment is drivers. It's the availability of drivers has been for the last 4 or 5 years. There's a worldwide shortage of truck drivers, not only in Ireland but in Europe and across the world, and that's becoming a big issue for us. I would like to see more Irish drivers here, but that pool is getting smaller and smaller. We're just not producing enough truck drivers in Ireland, and I think, as an industry and from a government policy point of view, I think we need to put more effort in. I think there's a shortage of 4,000 or 5,000 drivers in Ireland at the moment, and they could probably even double that, to be honest with you, to do it properly.
So what is the solution to that? What will it take to harvest new drivers in the Irish market?
I think really what we have to do is we need to get into the schools and colleges. I know it's a simple little thing. I think truck driving is not perceived as being a very fashionable or kind of a nice trade to be involved in. But what I can see now, the trucks we have here, they're big modern Mercedes trucks, like driving a Mercedes car. It's to show the young people or people who are interested, you know what, it's not that bad. And it's not like you go away for 6 or 7 weeks at a time, you don't get home. Most of the drivers we have, all the drivers we have in Perennial are, they work in Ireland and they stay in Ireland and they're out 1 or 2 nights a week. I think we have to go out as an industry and show we're paying good salaries, we have good terms and conditions, we're paying pensions, we're doing our very best.
And how has trade within a post-Brexit world altered the global supply chain?
There's certainly been a bit of a kind of a pivot away from the UK. We've seen a number of our clients, try to do more trade in Europe. There was a shock and awe system for the first few weeks, the first few months. But people are trying to get their heads around the customs and and what's going on in the administration. That's more or less died down now. But what you did see was companies who dealt from Ireland to the UK and UK to Ireland have now looked at Europe, and there's no mystique to it anymore. For a good few years, people thought dealing in France or Spain or Germany was difficult markets to get into. But what they found after Brexit was actually it's quite easy with the direct routes from Ireland, particularly from Rosslare, to the routes in Spain and France and Belgium. They said, well, we can actually get our product out there. So there has been a little bit of a movement away from the UK, and you can see customers who are purely UK and Ireland are now doing Europe.
And for Irish businesses that have yet to explore trading with France, what sectors are the most attractive right now?
Food is very strong. The exports from Ireland, particularly in the dairy side, they like Irish dairy, they like what we do, they like buying Irish dairy. That's certainly very strong. One of our biggest markets from Ireland is certainly in the dairy and the fresh fruit side of it. But equally from France, we bring a lot of fresh fruit and product in from France as well. But any company in Ireland, that's both north and south. There's a lot of Northern Ireland companies going to France now because obviously they have unfettered access into the European Union and they can ship through the Republic without having to do customs to France. You see a lot of product moving, like building materials from Northern Ireland, machinery, but also down south, a lot of, product for housing, guttering, PVC, things like that. And also there's a lot of pharmaceuticals going out there. Pharmaceuticals to France is very, very big.
And of course, you are the current president of the France-Ireland Chamber of Commerce. What are your priorities in that role?
We've 170 members in the chamber, which is one of the biggest chambers in Ireland. It's a chamber with 34, 35 very good large patrons. Some of the patrons are household names like Decathlon and Moët Hennessy, and even in Wexford we have Danone would be patrons and members. Servier and Arcleo are members. So my job is to keep that going and providing giving support to the members. Equally, having talk shops and getting the members together to talk about business and develop business together. But for my mantra or my kind of call for the next 2 years is to be bigger and louder. I think the France-Ireland Chamber of Commerce, we need to put ourselves out there. There's a number of our chambers are very good, who are smart enough that put themselves forward, but we are a big chamber and we are dealing with our nearest European neighbour, and we need to kind of foster that relationship. So my job is to get people into rooms and talk and develop and tell them, dealing with France is very easy, it's very simple, that the links are there.
Would it be true to say that a trade mission is almost a starting point for an Irish business to dip their toe in the water to see exactly how they can explore opportunities in France?
Absolutely. That's it. When you go on the trade missions, be it to France or some of the French people come to Ireland, it's a great opportunity to get into a room, meet the stakeholders, meet the people and meet the clients, talk to them, explain what your product is about, what you can do. And then, the trade missions are always the start. Most of these trade missions are always very successful. There's a real big willingness in France to deal with Ireland. They like Ireland. They actually like dealing with the Irish. They like our how direct we are. They like the way we do business. So if you can get to France and you have a product or you have a business and you want to scale it up into France, trade missions are a great way of doing that. And it's a huge market. Look at the size of it. It's massive. And it's a very stable market as well. They don't have any major issues out there. It's a strong economy. Okay, it has issues with politicians and politics, but that's like any country that goes through. But the market is quite big, and it's a great country to get involved in. And you can certainly, if you get out there and then get in there with your product, and they want quality. Quality is what the French are always chasing. So if you have a product that's that little bit better than what they have or somebody else have, they will buy it.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Chris Smyth, Group CEO of Perennial Freight and the President of the France-Ireland Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to thank Chris for sharing his insights with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.